right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Inside Hollywood with Vinny. Today, she is originally from Queens, all the way to LA. It's a wonderful story. She's a DGA member, line producer. She's worked in TV, film. She's got a lot of experience, a lot of history, and a lot of stories. Welcome to the show, Carrie Morrow.
Thank you for having me, my friend Vinny.
It is my absolute pleasure. I know that we've talked offline about a bunch of stuff, so now I'm so happy to introduce you to my audience, and we'll jump into it. Now, I found you on TikTok, which I don't spend as much time on. I spend most of my time on Instagram, so I got to make sure I spend more time on TikTok. But I found you on there giving some great stories and advice and just commentary on the world of Hollywood and film in general. So let's tell the audience a little about yourself.
Yes, so I did not go to school to be a filmmaker, as people always ask. I actually came to Los Angeles in 1984 as a production assistant and driving Johnny Depp to work for $25 a day on a movie called Private Resort, where he and my brother, who is actor Rob Morrow, were starring in this, TNA movie back then. And my mother said, go get a paycheck already. Like, you're out of college. And I came to California. I have 2 degrees in finance. And so I got a job down the road as a financial, working accounting and books. But back then, I just did a post about this, there were no computers. I started in the movie business on paper, where I would add up things, adding machine. But I was just a math person. I just was getting a paycheck, and wouldn't even go to the movies that much. And all of a sudden, and sometimes I call myself the accidental producer, these jobs just started growing, and they'd be like, you have the job, HBO and Interscope and Island Pictures, and my credits kept growing, and they're like, you want to be the producer? You be the producer. I didn't even know what that meant until I started paying them and realizing what that meant. And I just kept saying yes. I said yes to pretty much a paycheck is really what I was saying yes to. It wasn't, it didn't matter to me that one of my first productions was with Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins as a post accountant on Bull Durham. And those people didn't mean anything to me. I didn't really know who they were. My first producer credit was on Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood with the Wayans brothers. The credits kept growing. And also what I realized in Hollywood, the guys that I worked for kept going to other studios. And they go, I have this line producer. And it really just went from Island Pictures to Scott Free, Ridley and Tony's company, to Joel Silver's company, Silver Pictures. I stayed there for many years doing pictures. Then I worked for Warner Brothers proper and Lauren Shuler Donner. And about 2010, I started to get into TV because back then the rumor was if you work in TV, you get to stay home. And I had been in every Marriott around the world at that point. And I thought, it'd be nice to stay home. And I did. And so I worked in TV for years until my last TV show was in 22 at Warner Brothers. And then I went off to make Saw 10 in Mexico City. And at that point, I could see something was changing. And every studio would say, where can we make this for nothing? Those were the words. Where can we make this for nothing? Well, what do you have? We only have 10 million or under 20, they would say. And they wanted me to go to Bulgaria in 22. The problem with Bulgaria was that was when the Ukraine war broke out. And I was like, that's a little too close for comfort for me. And I said, let's try Mexico City. I speak Spanish. Let's go there. $3 million to make what probably would have been $30 or $40 million in the United States. And all of a sudden it went, we've trained the world to do our jobs, and now they're taking them, because about that time, Marvel started to leave Georgia and productions were not here. And in 23, when the strike started to pop their little head up, I felt that it was way too quiet. Like, this is something, I'm told to leave the country because of money, and they're banging their drums for more money and protections, AI protections, and, wages, because what's happening is less work. There's so much less work, and so therefore they need more money. Totally get it. I'm not disputing that. I'm a 33-year member of the Directors Guild, and sure, our rates go up. Every year they go up 3%. But all of a sudden it's leaving the country. And the difference is where I've spent my career working everywhere. Mexico City, South America, South Africa, Israel, wherever. They're not taking us anymore because they've kind of gone to these places and they've trained everybody. And unfortunately, I'll confess, in Mexico City, the quality of the crews was top-notch. I mean, I wasn't going to tell them you didn't need me. They needed, that movie needed me just to watch their money. As a matter of fact, at one point, they just said, you should be the babysitter. Okay. I now see it's just not here anymore. As a matter of fact, I had a post about this the other day. Of the 6 movies in the Golden Globe nominated Best Movies, 5 of them were made in London and 1 was made in Canada. Hello? They're
That's
not
enough
taking
to
us
wake
anymore.
everybody up.
The fall of 24 with Joel Edgerton, the actor from Dark Matters. And it was with a very big studio. And they told me it was $10 million. And they said, you need to get us the incentive. I did. I got them $2.5 million. So total, we had $12.5 million. They shut the movie down and said, not enough money to work in Los Angeles. And it was really an LA story. So they wanted to make it here. And they shut the movie down. And I had to give the money back to California. The dialogue is, and everybody says, what's wrong with the California incentive? It says it's an economic impact. It's a burden on the state of California. I mean, think about the fires and all the other stuff. And it will maybe restore 4,000 of the 60,000 jobs lost. I'm one of those jobs. And so they're all leaving. But they're all leaving far out of the country. And no studio executive didn't chime in for many months during those strikes. And everybody's marching with their signs. And all I wanted to do when all my friends will go, oh, you know what? I heard it's coming in August. Okay, maybe September. All right, maybe November. But it wasn't coming at all. And all I wanted to do was make T-shirts that said collateral damage. Nothing makes sense in Hollywood. And I have 2 different friends of dialogue that will say, I'm hopeful. I'm not hopeful anymore. And then those that are going, it's over. And you met me on social media, and I went on TikTok, Instagram. I also have a podcast like you. I have a podcast every Wednesday called What the Heck Next? And I talk to so many people. I interviewed Tom Cruise's stunt double, who was with Tom Cruise for 20 years, and now he's doing the carpool pickup at the elementary school. He's like, Carrie, I don't have any work. I don't know what to do. This is heartbreaking to me.
Sounds like one of the reasons why there's so much displacement of jobs and the industry's kind of, one of the reasons anyway, upside down, is because I think that everybody's thinking and banking that it's just temporary. But now, as you said, some of these things aren't coming back. So I think now we're in a crisis mode. We're at a stage 4, if I could say so, because they need to either totally come in. And I think most of this, not all of it, but most of this is tied to the way it's the governance of it. So unfortunately, they're not given enough love and incentives and enough maybe tax breaks or at least some sort of promotion and less restrictions and less bureaucracy to make Hollywood come back.
Well, exactly, because, listen, the DGA is not a union. It's what they call a guild, just like the Writers Guild and SAG. IATSE, which is the International Alliance of Theater Stage Employees, they are a union. They have benefits and pension, and although mine does too, we're not hourly employees. I am not an hourly employee. I'm a daily employee or weekly. I get paid by the show. Those people get paid by the hour, and they're actually called daily hires or weekly hires. They fall under one of the other contracts. And the rates that we pay these people from when I started. Now, remember, I started in accounting for money in the 80s. People were paid $16, $18 an hour, and now $49, $50, $60. I mean, I pay camera operators $100-something an hour, and makeup artists, the key makeup artist that has to deal with my celebrity, some of them come in asking for $150 an hour. And sure, they're not preparing for a wedding where they're working for 2 hours, and then they're working a 16-hour day. People in this business, I always say I won the occupational lottery. I am not stupid. And I wasn't paid millions. I am a line producer. I'm under DGA contract. I was paid more money than I ever dreamed of, but I also didn't work for 6 months between jobs. So it levels out. It's fair. But there's a system in Bulgaria. I'll give you an example. There's a stage called Sofia Stages in Bulgaria. And one of the things that they do is they employ a whole crew of people. You could just show up with your script and your actor and you're good to go. And they made many movies there, like Expendables with Jason Statham and Stallone and everything. And they've made a lot of movies there. And their formula is keep these people on staff, pay them far less, cover their health insurance, like a factory. That cannot exist here. We're not allowed to do that. And so the big dirty secret that's going on right now is this new thing called verticals. Right? These productions being shot for phone, but they're Chinese companies exclusively coming from China. They come here usually with non-English speaking people. They hire an Asian English speaking line producer, and they spend $150,000 to $200,000, $250,000, and make a 90-page script in 6 to 8 days. And then they sell off the pieces of their script to their streaming audience in China. That's not here. It's an international streaming service. And they are making these, it's not short form because it is long form, but it's short sales. They get you hooked on the story and then you just got to keep watching. They are shooting in Los Angeles. And by the way, California is what they call a work at will state, not a right to work state. We are work at the will of the unions. We are not a right to work state. Non-union, no rules, non-everything. It's taken over Los Angeles. Their productions are everywhere. And my friends that are union, and by the way, when you join a union or a guild, the bylaw that you sign says you refuse to accept any standards, conditions, or wages less than anything we've negotiated for you. Okay, well, my friends are working for minimum wage because they have no paycheck and they have to feed their families and they have to. This is crazy. But if I said to you, Vinny, come on, let's go make a non-union movie here in the streets, let me tell you how fast. My friend at the IA, my big friend Lyle, would be calling me up going, Carrie, what were you thinking? Okay? Tony Cusimano, the head of the Teamster, would be calling me up going, Carrie, you know better than this, you know.
Something's got to give. I don't know. Look, we don't have a magic wand, but let me ask you this. What if you had one thing that you could fix? You have the magic wand, you have the bureaucratic power to do something. What would be the one thing that you would do immediately to at least help the industry out if you could affect it?
It's the cost of the benefits. I think we could absorb the rates because that's this country. We pay people. You know, we're not an iPhone. You know, not going to go to China to be making movies. It's the 40% on a union movie. The cost of labor on a budget, on any budget that I do, takes up about 80% of the cost of making something for all the above the line, the crew and the post and all the other costs are, let's say 80%. The cost of that, insurance and taxes and health insurance and benefits and pension and health and welfare. That's many millions that you do not, that's the difference between this country and the other countries. Because I promise you, people still get paid a lot of money in London. They're not stupid. They work for the same thing, but they don't have that 40%. I don't know what the answer to that is because we don't have health care. But, you know, in Mexico, when you go in there, you actually pay the crew directly. Like if somebody makes $200 a day, you give them a check at the end of the week for 200 times 5.5 days they work. And they pay their own taxes. Here we have the employer's portion, the employee's portion, and we're just drowning in everything above the actual cost of production. I don't have a problem with the cost of locations. I don't have a problem with negotiating anything. I've worked for the biggest filmmakers on the planet, never had a problem negotiating anything. I'd be like, watch this, you see, I'll get it for less. Whether it be with Panavision or with equipment or whatever, but that 40% on top of everything we do, that's the killer.
That's a huge
You don't have that anywhere.
Well, I mean, if I had to maybe, and again, I'm no bean counter here, but if I had to, what I would like to see is more help from the federal government, maybe with a subsidy that's above and below the line that is on top of whatever tax benefits already out there. So again, above and below the line. So this way it helps both ends of the spectrum. And maybe if they found something that was attractive, even if it's short term for the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something, that they could do for the federal government can help tab on some of these projects. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know. Because we don't want to lose everybody and everything to other countries. It makes no sense.
I'm worried about these studios that are setting up camps offshore and shooting offshore. The guys whose money it was, they set up a company in Canada and wired the money from Canada to Mexico just to avoid the United States. What are we doing here? You know, it's you can run, but you can't hide. But we've all lost our jobs. And somebody put a nasty post to me yesterday and said, "Oh, who gives a hell about Hollywood anyways?" Well, there's Hollywood, the movies, and then there's Hollywood, the people that made them. We're just the people that made them. No different than Detroit or the auto industry who left, or iPhones. Everybody's gone. I swear we are on this. I had a post yesterday that's gone crazy, thousands of views, because I said this is a shipwreck moment. We are shipwrecked. And I don't know what the answer is. Federal government, hope, something, but it's something to do with that piece that they don't have anywhere else. Okay? It's not necessarily the incentive, but by the way, in London, you get back 40%. Do that math.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I think that your frustration is shared by a lot of people, and no, we can't allow Hollywood to fail. Hollywood is too big to fail. It shouldn't fail. It's a magical place for all. It's good and it's bad. It's still it's a special place. I've lived there. I've been there. I know the people there. You have some of the greatest people in the world in that, and it's a town of dreamers. It's people that have gone there and made it or didn't make it, but some people stayed, some people left, but it can't fail because it is the most important place for the film industry in the world. And There's so many other countries. You've seen it yourself. Yes, they're in Mexico, they're in Bulgaria, but there's no place like Hollywood. There just isn't.
Listen, I spoke to somebody this week who just said that the biggest heartbreak for them is that all their friendships have quieted. And it's not like my work friends were my friends. We worked in a pile. I was so excited when my phone would ring. The minute they would say, "We're sending you a deal memo," and my agent would say, "The contract's on its way," I would think literally how many of my friends I can bring. And whether they weren't friends, they were the people that I surrounded myself for years, that I would say, "I got a job, we're going, we're doing," even if it was here, even my last show at Warner Brothers. We're going, we're taking. And that is gone. It was a business for the laborers, for us people that worked, was compassion. And I cannot tell you how many people said, I don't have a job and my wife's having a baby. Okay, come on, let's go. And people that needed work, or even when I was working. And my crew members, and I would have 300 of them, would say, "I know that I'm working in the locations department, but I really want my SAG card. Is there any way you could help me get into the Screen Actors Guild?" Sure. How many letters I've gotten, how many people I've helped. I don't know what happened. And sure, there are little shows that are making here, but if you saw my post about the Golden Globes the other day, that Nikki Glaser opened the show and said, "It's crazy we're here in Hollywood having this award show because nothing's been made here for 6 years." Hello. It's heartbreaking,
It's a sad admission.
It's heartbreaking.
Well, Carrie, it's been great to speak with you. I think it's an important topic. That's why I wanted to have this conversation. And I think, again, we're going to see by the reaction of our audience here, but I think a lot of people, if not everybody, shares our sentiments it's pure agony to watch this thing kind of just tumble. So in the meantime, though, I want you to definitely continue doing what you're doing because you're a loud voice out there that's bringing a lot of attention to the subject in a more serious manner anyway. But for those that don't know, or maybe some people that are watching this that aren't familiar with you, where could they find you?
So on TikTok, I am What the Heck Next. I think it says "and what the heck next" is my TikTok. On Instagram, I am One and Only Morrow and What the Heck Next. I'm on LinkedIn under Carrie Morrow. I'm on Facebook under Carrie Serafina, because that's my company's name. I am on YouTube under What the Heck Next, and I have a podcast that comes out every Wednesday morning with some really amazing guests. I've had directors, writers, actors, stunt coordinators, intimacy coordinators, stunt woman driver, one of the most famous stunt women driver, who used to drive for the mob. How about that in Rochester? I have great guests. And sometimes I do solo episodes just talking about, everything I need to talk about for that week. And I would love for you guys to catch up with me and catch me on What the Heck Next on many different platforms. I look forward to seeing you. And Vinny, I'm so grateful for this. It's just, let's keep the conversation going. I'll come back and tell you if something changes.
Absolutely. And we look forward to it. And hopefully some good news. Hopefully we got to get some good news. We can't go much further down than this. So let's hope we get some good
Carrie
movement
needs a
on
job.
this. Exactly.
I pay for expensive children.
I know the feeling. And we'll make sure that we have links to Carrie in our description box. So make sure you're following her, supporting her. And until next time, it's been my pleasure to have brought to you the wonderful Carrie Morrow. And we'll see you again real soon.